Hey everyone, I just want to do a quick video on the pros and cons of a FlowHive. Okay, and this is going to help you decide, especially if you're just getting into beekeeping or if you're wondering if beekeeping is for you, whether you need to go the traditional route or whether you need to purchase a FlowHive. Okay, so this is anecdotal experience, so this is my personal experience, but hopefully it'll help you. So number one, the FlowHive has been amazing. Okay, this is the first hive that I purchased. I've only purchased one my first year, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. But it's been a great experience overall. Okay, this is kind of a hobby that I got into, and as you can tell, I've expanded to 2 more boxes over here. And so obviously the FlowHive helped me to get into beekeeping. I love it. But here are some things that I've learned along the way. Number one, I learned that with the FlowHive, inspecting your bees, learning about bees, the brood, them bringing in pollen, harvesting honey, or even seeing honey stores, all the different things about protecting your hives, keeping them healthy, whether you're feeding, supplemental feed, protecting your bees from wax moths or varroa mites or other types of critters like skunks and things like that. That's all the same. Okay, so whether you get a FlowHive or you start out with the traditional way of beekeeping, you're going to learn essentially the same things. Now, of course, I understand that if you ask 10 beekeepers how to do it, you're going to get 11 different answers. Okay, that's kind of a little insider beekeeping thing. Everybody's got a way of doing things. But overall, let me tell you that what you're going to learn about beekeeping is essentially the same. So don't let anyone tell you that having a FlowHive, you're missing out on the essentials of beekeeping. That's simply not true, because as a matter of fact, you can tell here your brood boxes. So I have 2 deeps on my FlowHive here, 2 deeps. Those are the exact same boxes as the traditional ones over there. Okay, they're called Langstroth, and you can get 8 frame, 10 frame, and I'm not sure if there are others, but I think 8 and 10 frame are the most popular ones out there. So essentially, keeping your bees healthy, and especially having those brood boxes, that's exactly the same. You're going to inspect the same. You're going to try to keep your bees healthy in the same way. Okay, that does not change. The only thing that changes, and I've said this in another video, is the super. The super is that top box that I have on this hive here, and that's where you're going to harvest honey. Okay, so it's the super, or the excess amount of honey that you can harvest for yourself as a beekeeper. That's why they call it the super. So it's the super amount, right? Or the excess amount that it's safe to take as a beekeeper, and it's not gonna harm your bees. That's the only difference between the FlowHive and harvesting honey the traditional way with the Langstroth hive boxes, okay? So why did I get the FlowHive? Number one, when I was first getting into beekeeping, it looked less intimidating. Okay, the cleanup, the actual harvesting of honey, all of that looked very easy. And for my wife and I with 4 kids, we thought, man, what an awesome family experience. We can walk up to the super, we can turn a key, and honey comes out of a tap. And just like it's marketed, that's exactly the way it works. It's pretty stinking awesome. And we've actually had my entire extended family out here for a family reunion one time. There was about 20 of us surrounding the hive box, and for 20 people to just sit there and watch honey come right out of the super cool experience. So you can't really beat that experientially with the FlowHive. It's really cool. Now here's the cons. It's super expensive, okay? And let me just give you a tip. If you're considering purchasing a FlowHive, you really don't need to purchase the brood boxes. You can go down to your local beekeeping store, because these boxes are exactly the same. FlowHive off of their website is going to sell you those at like a 300% profit margin off of their website, and you have to pay shipping. It comes all the way from Australia, which is where the company is founded in, okay? You do not have to purchase those brood boxes from FlowHive. The super is the only thing really that you have to purchase. You don't even have to purchase their roof. And actually, in another video that I'm going to post, I'm going to talk about how I'm actually going to exchange this roof. It was great for one season, but I'm going to switch it out, and I'll show you that in another video. So stay tuned for that. Those 2 brood boxes right there, purchase those on your own from your local beekeeper store. The only thing, if you do go with a FlowHive, I highly recommend just purchase the super from them, okay? Nothing else. Even the hive stand, you can purchase those off of Amazon.com for a quarter of the cost than you can get it in the kit from FlowHive. So those are just some pro tips from somebody who wished I would have done it a little bit differently after I realized that it's literally the same equipment if you just go down to your local beekeeping store and purchase it. So it's super expensive. For that super alone, you're gonna pay minimum $450 to $500 US, okay? It's expensive, but you get what you pay for. High quality and amazing experience. However, if you're doing this for a hobby and you just want 2 hives, that may be something that you can afford. Not for us, right? So we wanted to expand our hives. We wanted to have more so that we can have more honey, share our honey with friends and family, and maybe if we have enough, sell some, which that has been our experience. We've actually been able to share with friends and family. It's been amazing. Hopefully this year we'll have several bottles to sell as well. These traditional boxes that I have over here, and by traditional I'm saying that because I'm gonna have to harvest honey out of those the traditional way. That's the only reason why I'm saying traditional. Otherwise everything is exactly the same. With those boxes, you're paying a quarter of the price. Okay, you're gonna have to purchase your FlowHive, then you're gonna have to purchase a nook or some other type of way to get started. And usually that's on average around $165 US, depending on where you live in the United States. And so you're gonna have to purchase your bees as well. That's something that people don't think about on top of the cost for the super, the FlowHive Super. So just keep that in mind. To get started here, I'd say for my bees, installing my bees, and for those boxes over there, I'm in it for about $250 US. You can purchase used equipment. I purchased it new. You can do it for even cheaper than that, but I just purchased my stuff new. Okay, so just to let you know, you can use used equipment, which people do all the time, and they're very successful. So really that's the only thing that you have to look out for is, number one, you don't have to purchase the entire kit from FlowHive to actually have the easy harvesting honey experience, because experientially the FlowHive, it's pretty cool. However, the traditional way, I'm looking forward to getting my rolling pin and breaking open those white covered capped cells and putting those into a centrifuge and spinning that centrifuge and having that honey come out of those frames, and then it all coming down into a spigot that we can open and bottle our honey that way. Okay, so it's just 2 different experiences. One's a little bit more messy, one takes a little bit more time, but overall they're both really, really cool experiences. And for the family, two different ways of doing it, but at the end of the day you're harvesting honey, and at the end of the day when you go in and do an inspection, you're doing it the exact same way. So a lot cheaper going the traditional route. And really, if I could do things differently, I probably would have went ahead and just went the traditional route. Now that I have a FlowHive, I'm actually really glad that I have it, because it still is cool to come to that spigot, open it, and get honey. Don't get me wrong. But knowing what I know now, in my first year of beekeeping, I only had 1 hive, which means that I didn't have another one to compare it to. Luckily, I had a really strong hive in my first year. If that had not been the case, then I would have really not known what looked healthy and what didn't look healthy, what was normal, what wasn't healthy. And so that's why when you read beekeeping books or whenever you visit beekeeping clubs, they'll tell you in your first year, you really need to start out with 2 hives. That way you have something to compare your hives to. This one looks really strong and this one looks pretty weak. But you'd only know that one looked weak because you had another one to compare it to. And because of that, and because of the cost of FlowHive, most people are not gonna be able to start out with 2 FlowHive Supers, okay? And because of the cost, it really prevents you on the amount of hives that you'll be able to have. But I do think, and looking back on my experience as a new beekeeper, I really wish I would have started with 2 hives. Now again, I got lucky, extremely blessed, okay? But if it had been the case that we had a weak hive, I would have never have known it. I would have just thought that that was a normal experience. So everyone beginning out there, if you're going to go with the Flow, go ahead and in your first year, just purchase your deep brood box, install your bees, build up your bees, get the cost of your bees, get the cost of your deep brood box. And in your first year, don't worry about harvesting honey. Just worry about making sure that your bees are healthy, get them strong, get them up in number. And then in your second year, spend the money to purchase the Flow Super. That's going to allow you not to take such a financial hit all getting started, because the truth is most beekeeper, we were very fortunate in our first year, and we have a lot of things that our bees can forage on our homestead here and surrounding farms. But most persons who are getting into beekeeping, you're probably not going to be harvesting honey in your first year. Okay, we were very fortunate in our first year. So my suggestion is spend the money to purchase your bees, spend the money to purchase a deep brood box, whether it's an 8 or 10 frame. I suggest a 10 frame just because you can fit more in there, but you may not like how heavy they can get when they're filled up. But get those built up in your first year, and then the second year, spend that money on your Flow Super if you're gonna go the Flow route. But if you wanna go ahead and just get started and purchase all the equipment that you need, it's a little bit cheaper, go ahead and get those traditional boxes. Those are just some things to think about as you're getting started. I hope that helps. I know that's a lot of information, but I wish that somebody would have taken the time to explain all of that to me. But biggest piece of advice, start with 2 hives if you're going to be getting into beekeeping. That way you have something to compare your 2 hives to. All right, y'all have a great day, and happy beekeeping.